Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be a chronic illness Q&A. I have talked about doing one of these for a little while, and I asked for your questions on a post on YouTube as well as my Instagram, and shoot, there was one other place. Yeah, my Patreon. So I am gathering all the questions that I got from each of those posts, and I'm going to answer those now. Okay, so first question I got was, how many illnesses do you have and what are they? And you're going to have to bear with me because this list is long now. Well, not super long, but it's, yeah, and I try to do it in order. I have, first thing I was ever diagnosed with was anemia. And I've kind of gone through, yes, you're anemic, but you're not anemic, and yeah, you're anemic again, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm still counting this as the first thing because currently I'm still anemic. Well, or I'm anemic again. So, I have anemia, I have POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, I have cyclic vomiting syndrome, chronic gastritis, SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Yeah, that's what it is. I have anemia, POTS, cyclic vomiting syndrome, chronic gastritis, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO. I feel like I'm forgetting one, and I can't think of it. Oh, chronic fatigue syndrome. That's it. That's bad. And that's not including the ones that we are looking into that I possibly have. And I will tell you about those because at this point we are most likely 100% sure I have them. We're just waiting on the test results. EDS, or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, we're not exactly sure if it's hypermobile because I have a few of the hypermobile things, but I don't have all of them. We're also looking at median, I can't remember if it's accurate or acute ligament syndrome, MALS. And then there's the possible that I have superior mesenteric artery syndrome. So yeah, there's a few that we're looking in still that are not official, but some of them are more likely than others. It's just, I'm still having issues. Nothing is helping. None of the answers that I have gotten are, yes, this is why you're doing this. So we're testing for more things and waiting for test results on others. But I do want to mention that when I talk about diagnosis. Okay, so the second one is, how long have you been sick? The first time I full on remember getting sick, I was 16. Well, I was 15, about to be 16. My birthday was like 2 weeks away. So this year will be 17 years. Okay. Next one is, how do you balance your illnesses with regular life? And I'm guessing when it says regular life, it means like taking care of the kids and going out and doing things. And to be honest, how I balance it is I take my rest days. I prioritize my health as much as I possibly can because my health comes first. Because I cannot do anything if I am sick. I can't do anything for the kids if I am sick and I'm in bed. I can't do anything at all if I can't get out of bed. So, honestly, how I balance it all is I prioritize my health. I know that's a short answer, but that is the answer. I prioritize my health, and then depending on what I think my body can do that day, that's what gets done. The house is not always clean, the house is not always perfect, but we were all fed. I make sure I have my meds, and I make sure everyone is taken care of to the best of my ability, and I make sure I prioritize my health. That way it doesn't get worse. Okay, number 4, how are you able to enjoy yourself with your illnesses? Um, like I said, I prioritize my health. But because by prioritizing my health, I am able to occasionally go out and do things. I am able to go and have fun. I'm able to go out and do stuff. But it comes with the fact that I have to prioritize my health, and I have to make sure I have rest days built in, and I can't go out and do something every single day. And if I do, I have to make sure that I am taken care of. Is it harder for you to take care of the kids with a chronic illness? Yes. It's harder for me to take care of them, mainly because it's harder for me to keep up with them. Like, Nevaeh's at this age where she wants you to chase her around the house. She wants you to constantly be up moving. She likes to be bounced around. She likes to be picked up and fly like an airplane and swing around. Like, my aunt swings her, and I can't do that as much as my aunt can. I can't chase her for as long as my brother can. I try to do this stuff, but no, I can't do that. And I know that's not counted as taking care of, but playing with your child is part of taking care of your child. So, yes, it is harder to take care of them. And then there's the fact of sometimes I don't feel like cooking, but I know they have to eat, so I have to make sure I have stuff ready to go that we will all eat. And it's not always easy to do that. So yes, it is harder to take care of the kids, but it is totally worth it. Did you work or go to school with your illnesses? When I was first sick, when I first sick, I was in high school. I was about to start my junior year of high school, so I went through the last 2 years of high school and 4 years of college and 2 years of grad school with my illnesses. And at this time, I was undiagnosed and misdiagnosed, because I do have a misdiagnosis and all of that. As well as I worked up until, well, work was more difficult. I would work for a few stint, I would work for a stint, not be able to do anything. I would go work for another stint, not be able to do anything. And then I did that up until I was 28. Well, almost 28. Then I got really, really sick to the point where I couldn't get out of bed and I couldn't function. Like, I was crawling to the bathroom. That's how bad I was. So, yes, and that's when I ended up switching my job completely over to, I started my own Etsy shop, and I started my own business and I started doing social media for my friend because I can do that from home. Tips on how to manage work or school with an illness. Depending on where you work, explain to them what you need. Explain to them, hey, I have this illness and I need these accommodations. Most places are more than willing to give you those accommodations if you are a good worker. Other places, not so much. Like, I worked in the fire service and as long as they knew about my illness, I never had a problem. As long as I pulled my own weight and I was able to actually do the job, they did not care that I had an illness. Once my illness got so bad where I couldn't do that job, it was a little bit different. For school, I don't know who it is, but I think every school is different. For some people, you talk to a guidance counselor about your needs, and you'll have to have a parent if you're in high school. And college, I don't remember who it is for a college, but you can go and talk to them and get your accommodations, as well as let your professors know that you have these illnesses. Sometimes they'll give you extended deadlines, sometimes they'll just let people know that you have these illnesses and you are in need of certain accommodations. Because hiding it is usually what makes it worse. Okay, what are your top tips for someone who is newly diagnosed? Number one, learn as much as you possibly can about what you were diagnosed with. Because you are the expert on your body. No doctor is going to be able to tell you exactly how your body is going to respond to an illness. And you know what's going on with your body more than anybody. I don't care what anybody says to you. You know more about your body than anyone else. Number two is find a doctor who is willing to work with you as well as for you. Because it is not easy to find a doctor when you have chronic illness, and a lot of doctors don't want to deal with you depending on how complex you are. But trust me, find one, it's worth it. And I think I'm going to give three. Number three is learn to prioritize your health and your rest. That was my biggest problem. I was always up, moving around. I was at the firehouse. I was doing this. I was working out. I was always doing something. And then when I got sick, my life hit a standstill. And then when I got my diagnosis and I got my meds that worked a little bit, I was still having issues here and there, and I couldn't figure out why. My doctor's like, because you went from feeling like crap all the time to not being able to do anything to, okay, here's this diagnosis, here's this medication that's helping, to right back to where you were before you got sick, and your body's not going to be able to do that anymore. So he said you need to learn how to prioritize your health, what your body needs, and most importantly, prioritize rest. So those are my three tips. Those are my top three tips for someone who's newly diagnosed. Best advice you have ever received about dealing with your illnesses. Don't look at it as a punishment. A lot of times it is easy to look at your illnesses as it is a punishment, and somebody is telling you, because it feels like punishment sometimes. And I was told I know it's not really about dealing with my illnesses, but it kind of is, because having chronic illness is as much as a mental health thing as it is a physical health thing. And I was told don't look at them as a punishment, because it's not. And I've kind of learned that over the years. Sometimes I still have it times where I look at it like somebody is saying, looking at me laughing. Like, if you watch Bruce Almighty and him talking about he is the ant and God has a magnifying glass and he's burning off his feelers to watch him squirm, that. Sometimes that's what life with a chronic illness feels like. It feels like somebody is punishing you because they can't. So yes, I was told not to look at it like it's a punishment. And that also kind of helped me retrain my brain and how I looked at stuff. And that helped me deal with my illnesses better. That helped me be able to cope better. And coping with these illnesses is as much mental as it is physical. Because if you can't cope with it, you're never going to be able to physically deal with it. Okay, how has chronic illness changed your life? I had to quit a job, and not just a job, a career that I had worked my butt off for since I was in high school. I lost friends. I lost relationships. I had a boyfriend for 5 years. When I got sick, like really sick, he just walked. He couldn't handle it anymore. Because when I wasn't up, moving around, capable of doing stuff, he couldn't handle it. So it changed. Yeah, I've lost friends. I've lost a career that I worked my butt off for. I've lost a relationship where I thought we were going to get married and have children. And it kind of put that whole section of my life on hold. Like, yeah, I have. Nevaeh is not mine. She is a foster. So, yeah. And I would love to have a child of my own one day. I would love to have multiple children of my own one day. But honestly, because of this illness, it doesn't. Because of the illnesses and how hard it is to have a boyfriend or a relationship at all through this, it doesn't look like it will ever have that. But yeah, that's what chronic illness does. It changes everything. And I'm not mad at that anymore. I used to be mad at that. And there are times I'm still kind of ticked off of what it took from me. But I've also learned that if what I wanted was meant to be with the guy I was with, it wouldn't have happened. If I was meant to be friends with these people, then they wouldn't have ran off. And yeah. Okay, how did you find a good doctor? Years and years and years of searching for a good doctor, and my friends telling me, you need to go see this guy. I was looking for a new doctor. I hadn't had one. When I first got sick, it was 2021. We were still kind of in the middle of the pandemic crap, where we weren't in the pandemic anymore and the whole world wasn't shut down, but we were still in the middle of doctors' offices are not easy to get into, and doctors are not easy to find when you do find one, because they didn't want to accept new patients at the time. But my friend kept saying, you need to see this doctor. If you're going to get better, if you're going to figure this out, you need to go see him, because he will help you. He will figure this out. So I found a good doctor through years and years and years of searching, and finally listening to my friend and saying, hey, you need to go see this guy. How do you deal with the mental load of your illnesses? I try to have healthy coping mechanisms. I try to make sure I prioritize rest in my mental health. Sometimes that's journaling, sometimes that's talking to a friend, a therapist, anything that's how I do it. And sometimes it's just as simple as taking a mental break and either watching TV or playing a game on my computer. Like, I can play Candy Crush and Solitaire for hours, and while it's not always the best thing, it makes me think about something else. So, yeah, that's kind of how I deal with the mental load of it. Okay, did new problems arise after your original diagnosis? Yes. After I was officially diagnosed with POTS, I'm trying to think of how long I had between that and other issues. I think it was about a year. No, I made it a year and a half. Yeah, I had a year and a half. Heck, I may have had almost 2 years before I started having more issues. And at first, we just thought it was issues arising from the medication that I was on and issues from just POTS, because POTS can affect your entire body. And after a while, the issues didn't get any better, they just got worse. So, yes, new problems did arise, new health issues arose after I got my original diagnosis. Okay, what are weird things that your illness impacts? Um, the weirdest thing that I can think of that my illness actually impacts is my ability to rest. Like, and I know this sounds weird because everybody's thinking you have a chronic illness, you lay down, you sleep, that's your rest. And no, it's not. My illness they don't happen all the time, but they do happen. They're called adrenaline dumps. With POTS, I can have adrenaline dumps, and my entire body can, out of nowhere, freak out like I'm being chased like a bear. And out of nowhere, I can go into like complete fight or flight, and my heart rate and my blood pressure and everything can skyrocket. And yes, I think rest is the weirdest thing that my illness impacts. Because while you would think, okay, you just rest. No, with my body, sometimes I can just rest, but other times I can take a few minutes to rest and end up being in full on fight or flight, freaking out like a bear is chasing me. Most random issues related to your illness. My fingers, out of nowhere, will go blue. I can't touch hot or cold for too long without my hands feeling like, if I touch cold for a certain amount of time, like, and it's super cold, like I can't get something out of the freezer and touch it for more than maybe a few seconds without my entire hand burning. I can't touch hot for too long without my hand feeling like it is on fire. So, yeah, the most random issues are probably the temperature issues, and not like temperature control. Like, I do have temperature dysregulation issues, but the fact that I can't touch hot or cold for a long period of time. Yeah, that's going to be it. What do you do differently because of your illness? Um, pretty much everything is different because of my illness. Like, I can't sit in certain positions without my body tensing up and hurting. I can't. I had to change my sleep schedule because of my illness. Everything is different. From how I schedule appointments to when I schedule them for, like, like certain times of the day, I know, like, I'm worse during this part of the day. I'm better during this part of the day. So, like, in the morning, if I want to go to a doctor and make sure they bleed me, I go early in the morning. If I have an appointment and with a doctor that I go see all the time, I can do the afternoon. But the later it gets in the afternoon, the better I am. So, like, my cardiologist, I hate going to see my cardiologist in the afternoon because he doesn't believe I have POTS anyway, and he doesn't believe that POTS is a real thing. And I can tell that. And sometimes I wonder if it's just me or if it's what it is. But if I go in the morning and I feel like crap, and you can kind of see it on the monitor and everything, he's more likely to believe me. If I go in the afternoon, which lately I've been doing, then he looks at me like I'm crazy and I'm making it all up. Because at that point, I've had my medicine and I'm functional. But yeah, everything is different. How I make appointments, when I make the appointments for, how I go to bed, how I get up in the day, what time I get up in the day, how I do stuff when I get up, and showering is different. Like, I used to love a nice hot shower. I can't do that anymore. Does chronic illness impact all parts of your life? Yes. As much as it sucks to admit, everything is impacted by my illness. And the worst thing about that is this stuff changes on the daily. If I have 2 or 3 days where everything is the same, I start worrying and I start thinking, okay, when is shit gonna hit the fan? What's going on with me now? Do I need to go see a doctor? What doctor do I need to go see? Yeah. Chronic illness impacts everything. And it's never the same, which is the worst part about it. Okay, why are you chronically ill? Because I'm just unlucky enough to be? I can say this now because there was a lawsuit against the company and why I am sick. I'm not saying anything more beyond that about anything else, but I will say I am sick because of the Gardasil vaccine. Okay, so what was your first diagnosis? If you look at it, when I was 16, I was first diagnosed with anemia, but my first real diagnosis that I count is POTS, or postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And I count it as POTS because I received a misdiagnosis of autoimmune hemolytic anemia when I was 21 and told that was all of my issues. And that was everything. And I went through all that stuff and never had any relief. Never. I would have random bouts of relief here and there. Like when the doctors would put me on steroids, or I would do better for a little bit here and there. And then, but most of the time I still felt like crap. When I got my POTS diagnosis and started on that medication and everything, that's when I finally started to feel better. Okay, how many doctor's appointments do you have in 1 year? Is this a typical year? Or is this a year where I'm having issues and I just can't shake them? I genuinely have at least one appointment every month. So 12 appointments in a year. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Like, I do, okay, let's think. This year, yeah. So far this year, I have 7 scheduled. When I go to, and then when I go see my GI doctor, I will schedule another one. When I see my cardiologist, I will schedule another one. When I have my neuro appointment, I will schedule another one. As well as when I go see my primary care for my yearly physical in April, I will be told, okay, so I need to see you back in this many months. Or, and then there are, okay, I had issues arise, so I go see them more. On average, I do between 12 and 24 appointments a year. When I was first sick, I was doing between 24 and 36, sometimes more. That's just doctor's appointments. I'm not counting in mental health appointments. I'm not counting in if I have to do a PT appointment, or like if something else happens. But genuinely, I have 12 to 24 appointments in a year. And especially now that the hospital has changed the rules on doctors and what doctors can do what, that stuff gets changed as well. Like, I also made a video visit with my doctor. Like, my PCP calls me every 2 months, messages me every 2 months, and we just kind of touch base. And I had that appointment scheduled, and it was just supposed to be a quick phone call. And I started having issues and messaged him and said, can we turn this to a video visit? And was able to turn it into a video visit. So a quick 5-minute phone call turned into a 15-minute video visit. So that kind of stuff happens, and I can give you a rough idea on how many appointments I have in a year, but I can't tell you exactly, because it depends on the year and what's going on. Okay, what kind of doctor diagnosed you with POTS? When I was diagnosed with POTS, it was technically a cardiologist, but the cardiologist didn't give me the name of the diagnosis. He said, I had seen a cardiologist before, and the guy didn't help me, so I went in with a second opinion to a new cardiologist. And that cardiologist said, okay, so the first one did nothing, and we're going to do this, and we're going to put you on this medication. If it helps, then that's what's wrong with you. He never said the name of what was wrong with me. He just said, here, we're going to put you on this medication. So not even a week later, I was in my primary care office, and he said, so you're on this? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, if it helps you, have POTS. So I kind of goof around and say my primary care diagnosed me with POTS, even though technically it was a cardiologist. Okay. What are your favorite chronic illness friendly activities? My favorite chronic illness friendly activities are watching TV, listening to music, snuggling with my cats. When it gets warm enough, I like to go sit outside and just kind of be out in the fresh air. But of course, that also depends on how hot it really is and how cold it really is. But I like to rest and listen to music. And resting for me, even if I'm not resting, is watching TV. So yes, TV, music, those are my favorite, and getting outside and being with my cats. Okay, do you have medical trauma, or have you ever experienced medical gaslighting? Yes, I have experienced medical gaslighting more times than I can want to admit. And do you have medical trauma? Yes, I do. Okay. Does your illness impact all aspects of your health? Yes. I've kind of touched on this here and there throughout the other questions. So this one is just going to be short and sweet. Yes. My chronic illness impacts everything that's related to my health. Okay, the last and final question. Do you randomly experience new symptoms? Yes. I can randomly have a symptom I have never had before. And when I have that symptom, my first thing my brain does is, okay, so is this new? And this is going to be part of my normal symptoms now? Or is this something that's telling me, hey, there's something else going on? Or is this just some random thing that's popping up? So yes, I do randomly experience new symptoms. The last one was I had this, I call it a headache, but it's not a headache because I mentioned it to my doctor. And it starts right here and it goes all the way up and all the way to the back of my neck. It doesn't go over to the sides, it doesn't go through my whole head. It starts in the middle of my nose, like right at the top of my nose, and goes all the way through the middle of my forehead, all the way to the back of my neck. So, yeah. I talked to my doctor about that. He said, it doesn't sound like a headache, but to a point, it sounds like a headache. And I've had it a few times here and there. It never lasts more than maybe 15-20 minutes. But I see my neurologist next month, and I'm going to mention it and get it checked out. Just to make sure I am perfectly okay. And that it's not another problem, because I do not want more health issues if I can avoid them. So that's going to be it for this chronic illness Q&A. I know it was a long one. Thank you for sticking around if you did. Other than that, thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.